Hey all, welcome back. So today I want to talk about a very common problem in aquarium reef keeping, and that's cyanobacteria. Now, a lot of times when you get into this hobby, you fight with a lot of different algae types. You're going to get your green hair algae, maybe some brown algae when you first start the aquarium, but somewhere along the lines, you're going to meet a common arch nemesis of us all, cyanobacteria. Now the thing about cyanobacteria is it's not really an algae, it's a bacteria. And it has many reasons as to why it can pop up in an aquarium. You can see it in even the most expert of aquarium keepers. If you have cyanobacteria in your tank, I would ask yourself, what is your maintenance schedule like? If you're not doing any water changes, I would say it's more than likely that. Are your nitrates and phosphates high? It's probably that. Many times, this algae pops up in your aquarium because there's an imbalance in some kind of nutrient. I've had aquariums that were crystal clean, but phosphates tended to be high. So right when I solved that problem, you slowly saw the cyanobacteria leave. It could also be vice versa. Nitrates could be high because maybe you're using a lot of GFO in your aquarium to remove phosphates, but you're not really doing much to remove nitrates. So maybe you should invest in a biopellet reactor with a good skimmer or something along those lines. I would start by also looking at your water chemistry. What is your phosphate and nitrate ratio like? The idea is to keep them as balanced and as low as possible. If you have high nitrates, it's more than likely that. If you have high phosphates, it's more than likely that. If you're depending too much on your biopellet reactor and depending too much on GFO to take certain nutrients out of the aquarium, it could be that. I would also get a good sand sifting crew. Get yourself nice Nacarius snails. If you have some kind of wrasse in your aquarium that goes after snails, a fighting conch and a sand sifting star is a good solution as well. I've seen that work in a lot of aquariums. Also, take a look at your water source. Are you keeping up with your sediment filter, carbon block, DI resin, and even that membrane every 1 to 2 years, depending on how much water you're using? I would start with physically removing it. Go in there with a siphon hose. Get as much of it as you can out, but you also have to ask yourself, where is the source of it? Now, if you've already looked at all of that, maybe you have too much light in certain areas of your tank. I would suggest a PAR meter and or also shutting off the lights for maybe 24 hours. If you have a lot of SPS coral in there, I would do a little bit of research as to how long you can shut off the lights. They're going to stop absorbing that alkalinity and calcium, and you might fall into some kind of chemical imbalance when the lights turn back on. Now, if you physically removed it as much as you can, are keeping a good water maintenance schedule, added a good sand sifting crew, and also are keeping up with your source water, I would start by testing your water and get it to as perfect chemistry as you can. For instance, I would start by getting your calcium as close to 420, getting that alkalinity as close to 8.5 to 9.5 DKH, depending on your aquarium. And then get that phosphate to 0.01 to the 0.05 range. Get those nitrates at 10 ppm or under. And once you've done that, maintain everything as stable as you can, and I bet you will remove that cyanobacteria. Many times, you also have to look at what you're doing on your end. Are you feeding too much? Are you adding too many fish? You see it a lot of times in overstocked aquariums. Also, what kind of coral are in your aquarium? Maybe adding more coral wouldn't hurt you. A lot of times when you have a reef that's fully packed and there's not a lot of real estate for cyanobacteria, it usually doesn't have a place to go. In my sump, I many times have a little patch or two of cyanobacteria. It almost wants to live in certain places in your tank, and I almost learned to work with it. It is a tough one, but I gotta tell you, it won't last forever. It runs its course, and if you are maintaining good water chemistry, it will disappear. If you're not doing water changes and you're overfeeding your tank, you're gonna have some kind of algae. Many times it's going to be cyanobacteria. Other times it could be hair algae, and we'll talk about hair algae another time. That's another pain in the butt, but cyanobacteria is a very tricky one, and a lot of times, like I said, even experts have it in their tank.